It's a 1991 Nissan Skyline R32 GTST. So, for those of you wondering, it's not a GTR. It's rear-wheel drive because it's a drift car, right? Has built RB25 in it. It's right over 500 wheel horsepower. Bunch of goods for drifting, like Wise Fab, fuel suspension, all that stuff, which we'll go in on more detail with. But it's basically, at this point, it's a fully built backup competition car / demo car, ride-along car, and YouTube car. So let's get into it. All right, if you guys are wondering why we're sweating so much in the videos lately, it's literally 101 degrees inside this garage, so it's hot, and we have no air conditioning. So let's check out the motor first, because that's kind of what a lot of people wonder about. It's an RB25 Series 2, so same family as the RB26. We'll get super basic for some of you that may not know. This is basically Nissan's inline 6, basically the Nissan 2JZ or 1JZ. So I personally, I think most of our team is big fans of the RB. I think they sound way better than a JZ. They don't necessarily make as much power. They're not quite as reliable as a JZ, but they're just, I don't know, they sound so damn good. So this has like a real old school top mount Greddy turbo kit on it. Some stuff to bring it to the new age, like we got these Audi R8 coil packs on it, same as like the Lambo actually, as well as Murcielago, and I think even the Huracan and Aventador are all using those now. So that's a great upgrade if you guys are having any igniting issues. Made it a lot prettier. Still got the old school Greddy plenum on it as well. We did upgrade the intercooler. Before we go any further, kind of a little background on the car. So this car I actually bought in Japan at a Bisu from powervehicles.com. I had a JZX, actually. JZX 100 was my first. Okay. That's cool. So I ended up, the JZX was just way too nice of a street car, and really not a drift car. It was like totally stock power-wise. It had a HKS ECU on it, but anyways, long story short, ended up trading that car in and trading up to this car. It did not look anything like this. It was like a highway ripper. It had the built motor in it, which I'll tell you guys a little bit more about the motor in a second, but it had the built motor. It was a molded wide body, no angle kit, and it actually had like 16-inch T37s on it, which is kind of cool. It looked really good. I ended up putting an angle kit on it, putting different wheels and tires. That was my Bisu car, so I just thrashed that thing. Ended up like destroying the molded wide body. I smoked this front corner at one point. This thing was a champion out at a Bisu circuit. But then once we decided to do Formula Drift, we're like, I'm not gonna have time or money to go to Japan this year. So we ended up shipping this car over here and basically completely redid a bunch of stuff. It had a bolt-in roll cage, wasn't super reliable on some of the stuff on the motor, and so we ended up changing everything and making it truly a competition drift car. Definitely got a lot of history to it in its short lifespan. So a little bit more on the RB. It is a fully built motor. It just has forged pistons. I think it might be stock rods if I remember correctly, and stock crank, but those are pretty stout. But the head's fully built. It has a huge cam in it. It kind of sounds like a rotary or something weird when it's idling. It was funny at a Bisu, people would come up and be like, what motor is in this thing? Like, they didn't necessarily know. It doesn't sound like your average RB, which still sounds great. I think eventually we'll upgrade the turbo kit and things like that, get a little bit more power out of it. It's super laggy, but it's just a really fun setup and super reliable. Moving on, let's check out the interior since we were kind of talking about some of the modifications there. But this goes with it, getting rid of some weight. We ended up doing Lexan windows with the nice rally sliders, and then, like I was talking about, got rid of the bolt-in roll cage. I went with a fully custom welded-in roll cage. It's got the anti-intrusion bars, kind of the similar design to the Pro car, just not quite as extensive. Same driver's seat actually as the Pro car as well. So yeah, we got rid of the stock handbrake, ended up putting a hydraulic handbrake in with dual caliper with our trademark, our trademark Katana. So if you guys are wondering why it wobbles, it's a goddamn sword, okay, guys? It works beautifully, it's just a sword. You guys are so funny, flaming us for that. I ended up going with the aim dash, and it has a Motec PDM in it, as well as the switches. You got like start, on, fuel, lights, windshield wiper, LEDs, all that fun stuff. And then it's on a Link ECU, which is pretty cool. I actually really like that ECU. Matching bride seat. That seat's actually from the Laurel. There's actually a lot of, I don't know if you guys knew this, but there's a lot of stuff on this car that's from the Laurel. Like the seat shifter, this little fun guy, VIP nut, the little poop, that guy.
There he is.
So we're big fans of holding on to parts and using them on other cars. It saves you money, and especially if you buy quality parts, they're gonna last. So like that seat, I've had it for a long time, and that just works great. We have those, as well as the steering wheel. Nice Vertex steering wheel. This was from the Genesis too. So, and I think this was in the Laurel at one point as well. So, I don't know, guys. Hold on to your stuff. Buy quality parts. Hold on to them. They might come in handy. Let's check out the trunk. Trunk's like a simple build, but it's the stock fuel tank, but we did this nice radium overflow. So this actually has dual pumps in it, and then we have an upgraded pump in the tank. So tank pump is only having to fill this tiny little surge tank, and then it has 2 pumps in here to pump fuel up to the engine, and then it has the return system that comes back into the overflow. That's a great system. That's worked really well for us. We're not sponsored by Radium, but if anybody from Radium watches this, we would love your support. And then we didn't want to go through building like a whole firewall in the back, because the fuel cell is technically under a firewall. We just put the battery in a nice battery box there, and that keeps that all safe. That's totally fine. As well as you can see the fire suppression. Some of you guys ask if that's nitrous in the back. It is not. So that's pretty much engine bay, trunk. Let's talk about the exterior a little bit. I'm a big fan of paint and authentic body kits. But this car is not. This car just gets thrashed so much. I personally can't afford to keep all authentic stuff on it. So these fenders are just JP fiberglass. They're not all that great. They look pretty good though. I can't go like all rep parts on it. So we have these dope Bomex mirrors. These are authentic. But notice I put some of the authentic stuff up out of the way of where it'll normally get hit. I got real lucky right here. The Work VSKS. Love those puppies. So some of these wheels were actually from the Laurel as well. Some of the rears, we got them coated black. And then also you can see in there the dual caliper setup. So we're running all Part Shop Max brakes, front and rear, Z32, matching dual rear calipers. Great setup. That setup will work on any S chassis, C chassis, or R chassis. So depending on which chassis it is, you might have to use a different rotor with a little different offset, but highly recommend that. Still stock metal trunk, but we did nice, kind of like the stock GTR wing, but carbon fiber version, which is pretty dope. And then back here was actually Jameson's idea. We had the bumper off, and he was like, it looks pretty hard, but it was still kind of white underneath. We haven't actually painted the whole car black under the wrap. It still has some white. Ended up painting it all black, and now we run it bumperless. It's kind of a sick look, honestly. And get that much closer to the wall. Whoa! See? Beautiful. Just what you're looking for. IKEA Formula dual tip. Mega Ultra JDM. Oh, and license plate's kind of fun. Gray market, because the gray market vehicle. So look that up if you don't know what I'm talking about. So this crazy carbon hood that people have asked me about, I have no idea what it is. If anybody knows what brand it is, it's authentic from Japan. It was on the car. We have no idea what it is. There's no labeling. It's sick as hell. So if I know we have a lot of guys just getting into the scene on our channel. Basically what this is your turbo builds up pressure, right, in the exhaust manifold. The exhaust gases come into the manifold, they build pressure up, spin the turbo, that sucks in air and compresses it, feeds it in, that's how you make power. Well, it will continually build up higher pressures unless you have a way to limit the pressure, essentially. So that's what your wastegate does. Your wastegate lets out excess pressure that you don't need, so you set it with the wastegate with springs inside it. It's usually actually in the turbo now, and this would be ran just into the exhaust. Now, something cool you can do for sound and just some fun, just right off the wastegate, dump the exhaust right out the hood or sometimes to the ground. I'm a fan of out of the hood. we've had down on the ground before. A Laurel was like that, but it can get sketchy when flames are just flying out underneath the car. Fires are bad. We're running 18s front and rear. This is an 18x9 front with an Achilles 123S. The rear is an 18x11 with, we just run 255 Chinese tires. We're running WiseFab angle kit in the front. That's, in my opinion, the best angle kit in the world. So that combined with the rear is just kind of, it's a PBM drop knuckle with just kind of some random control arms, but then it's sitting on feel, suspension, 441 coilovers, just kind of their base coilovers. So, I mean, that setup's been awesome. We're no sway bar in the front. In the rear, we have a stock sway bar, and we welded on basically adjustable links, so we can adjust. We have like 3-way adjustment, basically middle, soft, hard. Some of it's complicated, some of it's super simple, but this car overall is one of the best driving cars I've ever experienced. And the more we learn, honestly, the better it gets and the better it evolves. That's pretty much the build breakdown. I think we should run into some sweet cinematics out in the desert with this thing. So